this British Grand Prix of 1984, the decision to build a 1.5-litre turbocharged Formula One engine was agreed between Ford and the specialist engineering company Cosworth. Keith Duckworth, designer of the successful old Cosworth DFV, soon faced a desperately compressed schedule after his first attempt with this 4-cylinder engine failed. From now on, everything would hinge on this, the sophisticated engine management computer. Last week's program ended as the technicians struggled to start the new 6-cylinder engine, their first faltering step on the long road to perfect a fully competitive turbo.
That's pretty rich. I see it's a sustained current in the injector. Yeah, here it comes.
The engine is running, just. A faltering misfire at 4,000 revolutions a minute means something is wrong.
That's taking 12-volt battery to zero momentarily. The whole battery. Oh.
Inside the test cell with the engine, Paul Ray and electronics expert Steve Taylor watch the fuel pulse signal jam open as the engine's ignition flattens the battery.
It seems as though it's pulling the battery right down.
Yeah, because the contacts are going open up there. If you wire it direct, you won't have the same thing.
Like a C-swing dropping out?
It's still missing a few.
Yeah,
I can feel it from just sitting here,
Yeah.
feeling the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what we forgot to do? It might be... There we go. Okay, now
That
it's
was
dead.
Steve.
Was it?
The engine is shut off. It's time to make some changes.
Yeah, I can tell that. It's fuel. I can feel it. Let's put the suppressor line in. I think we'll be
a bit of
okay.
spark scattering. The odd spark is missing, but...
But that could just be the engine running so rough
Yeah,
that we're
that's
actually...
Oh,
Yeah, torque jitter back.
For Taylor, there's simply relief that his rewiring of the engine management computer actually works.
Because it means that that ignition modification to the spark output has cleaned up the backfeeding noise to spark. That was stable on there.
I could watch it from out there.
Well, I say stable, it was continuous.
Hey Steve, the spark drops off, but the fuel keeps going?
No. Plenty of spark, it's fuel.
The spark stays on, it's fuel.
Oh, the spark stays on, fuel shuts off.
We're not into a fuel loop at all, are we, Jim? Haven't got nothing to affect fueling at all. No. Okay.
You don't need we did make a calibration change so that everything in this looks at the left side.
By left side and right side, they mean the left or the right bank of cylinders in the V6 engine.
And it is. It's behaving pretty much the way
Yeah.
we'd expect it to. We've got good right to left. We're missing the same number of times on the right as we are on the left, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
The temperature's even.
Temperatures are very nice.
Yeah? Oh, good.
So, well, I think we're close. You know, I think if we back the step one more time, we're going to be just about where we want to start off today.
40 minutes later,
That feels a lot better.
Yeah.
Just
the engine is running at 7,000 revolutions a minute. To make it run more economically, they must now reduce the fuel pulse width. Engine noise and soundproofing reduce instructions to a series of hand signals.
Good.
it's very good.
Yeah.
Looks, you can feel it. You know, everything is.
Formula One is really a fuel formula. Each year, the cars must become more economical as the permitted fuel load is reduced. The trick will be to make the engine the most powerful and yet the most economical ever designed.
Steve,
It's quivering. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of false triggering coming in. Okay, I see what's happening there. We're going to change.
so that's the true trigger.
That's right. What we're doing is we're falling in and out of phase, but not by very many crank degrees. So
No.
you can't really feel it out here. But if we had the stacks open, you could see some fluff coming out. Let's see where we're at. A little bit more.
Fluff is smoke caused by too much fuel. The computer is still picking up rogue signals triggering the fuel injector at the wrong moment. Taylor searches in vain for the rogue signal.
We just had a little one come through. I don't know if you felt it. There it goes again. I bet you, well, we're getting one big one come through, and we're coming out of sync for 2 revs, and then we go back into sync. That's why we feel that. Okay, it's time almost to put on the new cam sensor then. Gee, we get to try everything today.
I'm happy to take it up if
Yes, let's do
everybody's
so.
happy.
As soon as I see somebody look at me, I'll tell them.
The engine is shut down.
Seven. We had good temperature. We had an occasional miss, one of them which took out the whole system and brought it down cold, and then we recovered and brought back the whole system.
Yeah, it was fuel. Our
We can tell.
safety barrier on fuel was working well. When it sees the problem, it's shutting fuel off so we don't overrun, which is pretty good. But it's fuel economy conscious, all right? But at the wrong time
Yeah, I'm
right
sure
there.
Alan Jones will appreciate that. Do you think it's time to change the cam sensor finger so we can maybe get a little of that noise out of it, if there is any there?
Noise is jargon for the unwanted electromagnetic
Yeah, we're still
pulses.
seeing noise, and the strategy is obviously going into some high region, and the fuel shut-off that Jim put in for protection is
Yeah, I think it's catching that.
is actually
noise.
catching it.
It really is shutting it off like it's
Yeah.
supposed to.
So the strategy's working okay. We just
The
a
good
noise
news
problem.
is the engine runs, but the bad news is not all the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's steady on the
You're only
steering.
looking at one injector, right?
An hour later, the reason for the erratic fuel injector pulse is still a mystery.
If we could look at all 6, and you said that, I would walk away from it.
Point taken. Yeah.
You
It
know,
could be happening on one of the events.
we
around
always
the
talked
time.
about doing that. We said, what if we didn't have a nice quiet spot to sample plenum pressure? What would be
Yeah.
the result? And the answer was the computer would come
Bounce around.
through, it would pick off a high spot on the wave, run a calculation and send out, then it would come into the valley, pick another one and send out another totally different pulse and continue to iterate that way. It can do that.
Perhaps not surprisingly, they find that all the wires are acting like radio aerials, picking up pulses from the engine's ignition system.
That's the telecommunication link.
It's
Nothing. But it doesn't go anywhere still.
But it's not connected to anything. It's just an open line.
Yeah, follow the tab there.
After 2 hours of rewiring, the V6, triggered by its computer, sounds like a racer for the first time. The fuel pulse is steady at last. Fuel mixture is made fractionally leaner, and they decide to take the engine up to 10,000 revolutions a minute. For good measure, Steve Taylor moves the sensor to another fuel injector to check all 6 are receiving clean signals from the computer.
Are we missing? Or are we okay still?
No, at the moment. We've got 10,000. That'll do, eh?
Steve Taylor gets the signal. 10,000 revolutions. They have an engine that runs. Perhaps this, at last, is the end of the beginning.
Yeah. I like that.
Ten days later, software expert Jim Coates has returned to the States.
Okay, let's ask Jim if he's received my changes.
Steve Taylor and Bob Stelmazak in Northampton communicate with him daily by computer.
Jim's still not awake yet.
Okay.
Do you want to read one of your mail messages?
I certainly would. I'd like to read all of them, and I'm going to get a hard copy of them if I can.
The engine management computer, or module, was designed to be strapped on top of the engine. But because of the rogue signals, they've decided to redesign it for another position on the car.
The modules are being fabricated in the States and sent back over here once they're checked. And,
Right. In fact, Jim Coates, who's now responding, he's phoning us on the VAX, has sent us a message here at 2:54 in the morning, and if we got him up at 5:30, didn't have much sleep last night again.
Now, Jim is phoning us, and we're going to try to answer him if we can.
Right, time's 6:22 over in the States at the moment.
Jim's just getting up, had breakfast, fed the kids, and is getting into work.
I don't think he's been to bed, personally.
He better not have. I'd be disappointed otherwise. It depends on his typing speed. If it's slow, we'll know he's been working all night. He's pretty slow. We might have got him before coffee.
See if he understood why we made the changes.
And ask him when he reviews them to evaluate the effect on speed, printing speed of the display.
Okay, so look at them this morning.
With a 6-hour time difference, work on problems can continue long after the British engineers have finished for the day.
Yes, okay, good.
Even so, there's always an element of competition between the two groups.
I wonder if he'd thought of that initially.
I don't think so.
Because the engine management computer is to be moved, a complete wiring change will be necessary.
I've just told him the status here now is that Cosworth have issued a wiring change that will be carried out with the hardware, and this will be carried through while this particular requirement for module reverse mountings is maintained. As long as he knows the status that we're at in the UK, then his bench setup will mirror the image of the dynamometer and fixings here. Hopefully, so that if we get any problems, he should see them in the US. Doesn't always work, mind you, but we try and get as close to the real thing as we can. We have to keep both sides of the water informed so that if he's making any changes on his benches or if he gets a particular problem, he has to be to the same standard we're at in the UK. Otherwise, we're both chasing different problems, and he may be chasing a problem that's a day old and we've already resolved.
The program for the engine management microprocessor is top secret. It must read, evaluate, and act upon constantly varying information several hundred times between each stroke of each of the 6 pistons. But as the project to develop an advanced engine management program reaches its climax, the danger of this transatlantic data being hijacked grows.
It may be of interest to someone who would be developing electronics for Formula One engines. There's only a few of us, you know. As far as the ability to break into it, if a user who is not authorized to get on the system attempts to break into the computer, and if he knows part of the information he needs, and he attempts to just try it over and over until he comes up with the proper combination, the computer will recognize his attempt to break in, and in the software, in the computer, it's instructed to take evasive action, so that even if he does find the correct combination, it will not let him in until a certain time has passed where the computer has judged he has probably gone away and the true user can come back in. So I think the access privileges are quite secure.
February the 21st, 1986. It's 9:15 in the morning and 6 degrees below freezing at the Boreham Proving Ground in Essex. car was completed the night before, and both drivers are here. Patrick Tombaugh. Duckworth congratulates Jeff Goddard. Wiring changes are still incomplete, so the finned aluminium computer remains on top of the engine. Obscured by the complex turbo machinery, the size of the small engine seems to surprise even Duckworth.
It just sits in the shadow. The small engine sits in the shadow of the car. But I don't know, the intercoolers and everything else don't look quite so big and out and in the way, do they? Somehow. I suppose it's looking down on it is better than looking at the thing and all that.
But the turbos and the radiators, known as plumbing, have been the responsibility of the car's designers.
All the plumbing looks very nice, doesn't it, actually, with that. And from having put the centre intake in here, getting that into there, and just about sneaking this thing round the corner. So I noticed that the depth of it's the wrong way round, isn't it? It should be deep and thin in that direction instead of being wide and flat. Yeah.
Yes. We allowed them that one because I did the pressure drops and it was
Or
okay.
it fits the body like that. If we go the other way, it doesn't fit the body.
Hey, I didn't realise those things are going to be sticking out there like...
Alan Jones will be the first to drive a car so new that even the team are unfamiliar with the controls.
Hey, Huey. Huey.
Yes,
Which way's on the steering wheel?
it's marked.
Oh, it's sort of right.
There are 5 straps on the safety harness, 2 over the shoulder, 2 on the hips, and 1 round the crutch. It must be fitted by the engineer, but can be released with 1 punch on a center catch to escape in case of fire. Like his overalls, the balaclava is fireproof for a few valuable seconds and could save his life.
Alan, the oil pressure's meant to be about 60, somewhere in that chord, all right?
Okay. And what's it running temperature? If it's below a certain thing?
I really want to be above 80. Yeah,
So if it doesn't have to come in and put some more tape
put
on.
some more tape on it, I think.
On goes the carbon fiber body shell.
Just hit one lap very, very slowly. Stop out on the side there and walk outside.
How was the back turn?
2 years of work and millions of dollars are now in the hands of one man.
The roads are well blacked off, but even later on you need to be above 80 before we give it any stick.
Yeah. I just asked Dick, and he said above 80 and oil pressure 60.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bloody great baritone, doesn't it? Don't you think? It's
Unlike Jones, Patrick Tombaugh has striven for Ferrari and has learned to judge a turbo by its sound.
sounds good.
For a few moments, everyone forgets the cold. It's real Formula One at last.
Don't turn it off from there.
Running about 78 or so.
That's oil pressure.
About 85.
Even with the radiators blanked off, the engine has only just reached its operating temperature in the icy conditions.
Steering wheel position's good. Pedal position is good, except for the accelerator and brake. And I'd like the gear stick to be a bit further away, as much as you could. But this feels a lot better. You know, more support.
Engine run cleanly?
Yeah, very clean. Clean as a whistle. There's no sort of popping and banging, it just runs really clean.
As ex-Williams designer Neil Oatley keeps a careful note, Tombe asks if there's any lag in the throttle response.
No, but it feels very good, you know, very good response. No popping or banging or...
Synchronized with one another, huh? The engine. Synchronization between the throttle and the engine.
So far, you know, I'm not going all that quick, but it feels good.
The engine management module is only slightly warmer than Jones.
Dick, you haven't made any provisions for a heater, have you?
Not quite yet, no. God, I think it's cold in there, isn't it? Oh, freezing.
Ah, is that for me? Yeah. See, I thought it might have been for the engine.
Despite Jones's good humour, this old airfield is icy and dangerous. By 10:30, conditions have not improved.
Yeah.
The smooth power that Jones has experienced is due to a totally uncompetitive turbo setting of 2.5 bar, about half race boost. But at least everything else is stable.
No problem. 78 pounds per square inch on the oil. And about 86, 87 on the temperature. But no, nothing, not enough. Nothing.
You used 10.5 that time?
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Charlie.
Engine clean all the way up?
Yeah, clean, no problems. Very clean on the down run and no hesitating or popping or doesn't seem to be any of that nonsense going on.
And the initial...
Yeah, you'll start to improve it now.
J, K, L, M, N. Should be those two. T should be the one of those. Yeah.
Jim Coates is not happy with the plenum charge temperature, or PCT sensor, from the computer, and decides to change to the left-hand bank of cylinders.
The two ground should be T and U.
And U?
Right.
Let's try U then.
There it is.
That's that ground. So what should be the PCT for that one?
Okay, that's L.
That's PCT, so where's
right.
the signal
so
for
we should
PCT?
pick it up on N.
So N, so if we go into that one. So the other
anyway,
one
it's there, isn't it? And it's,
yeah. The other one is...
But the real problem is that the engine was never designed to run under Arctic conditions.
Depends when they're running, really, because it will only take us half an hour to do.
Are we going to have this engine back?
I wouldn't have thought so after today. I'd have thought it worth.
You want to get some...
Well, I want to get some miles on it. Because at the moment, I mean, they've got no references on this circuit, how quick they go in and what it feels like or anything. It just says as long as bumpy, you know, it runs.
Now it's Tombe's turn. He will put in half a dozen trouble-free laps and confirm Jones's view that the engine is smooth, but well down on power.
3 laps, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No stop for lunch.
That's what he said, and then lunch. Lunch?
Yeah.
I think drinking more than lunch. You don't do lunch.
For the moment, his main concern is the rather uncomfortable crutch strap on the ill-fitting harness.
Oh! No! Do you think you need to get the crouch strap from so far back?
Since the first icy test at Boreham, the team have given the car an inconclusive run at Snetterton. Now, aerodynamicist Ross Brawn is back in the Cranfield Aeronautics wind tunnel. All Formula One aerodynamicists are locked in an endless quest for more downforce. Downforce is aerodynamic pressure on the car. It produces extra grip. Before sliding skirts were banned in 1980, this grip was achieved with undercar suction or ground effect.
There still is a type of performance from under the car, but nothing like as good as the ground effect cars used to be. But we're now back into the area of the same overall downforce of the car that we had with the ground effect cars, but it's much more draggy. It's much less efficient. So we've lost efficiency, which has been compensated for with the performance of the engines. So the cars are really probably back in, well, they're faster than the ground effect cars again. In terms of overall downforce, the rear wing probably contributes 50 to 60% of the forces involved, whereas in ground effect days it was a much smaller percentage. Now the cleaner and higher quality the flows of the rear wing we can get, the more performance we get out of it. With this new engine, it's very low, very compact, so the engine is no longer the limiting factor to how clean we can make the flow to the rear wing.
March the 4th, 1986. Britain is still in the grip of a miserable winter. This is the Castle Donington circuit. The other Formula One teams bake in the Rio sunshine in preparation for the first Grand Prix of the season. Cosworth have produced an engine with full race boost, and the vicious power induces wheel spin on the wet surface. It is mid-afternoon, but all day things have not gone well.
The loop's not open, obviously.
The day started with bad news from Rio. Progress made by the other teams in electronics had been seen firsthand by Tombe.
I said that the electronics that was presented by Honda and by BMW makes them look like they're just beginners. They're just unreal type of software and hardware that they come afterwards.
It's clear the electronics advantage that Ford had hoped to achieve before racing the car has been eroded. But the engine management module is now working well, and it's simply a lack of circuit testing that's holding up the development of the software strategy. The team trailer is a mobile workshop. Inside, Steve Taylor and Chief Development Engineer Martin Walters pass the latest strategy or map from the main computer to the electronically programmable memory, or EEPROM.
How long?
About 3 minutes.
This is known as burning a chip. Each chip can produce quite different behavior from the same engine.
Well, obviously the mapping data is different. It's this has got the most latest specification in the chip for the engine calibration.
Okay.
Right.
It is 10 past 10, and with rain forecast, there's no time to lose. The EEPROM carrier is clipped into the module. Before the team can allow the car out, they must check the engine kill switch on the steering wheel. This is a safety device to stop the engine if the throttle jams. It fails to work. Immediately, the team assume that it's a fault of the program in the engine management computer.
Yeah, I know, precisely. I don't the thing, which is stupid. We don't want to do that. We don't want to do that, so we ought to sort it. Yeah. Paul has got, I think, the program that was run at Snetterton. Yes. We can't run the car like that because it hasn't got the field mapping for the pilots. Yes. But at least we can see if the kill switch works on that.
Yes, okay.
Because presumably it did work at Snetterton.
It did work, yeah.
No, it worked. I mean, no one said it didn't.
Well, it worked at the shop because, I mean, we checked.
Yeah. Did it work at the shop yesterday then?
We just double checked, I believe it did. Harry, did that work yesterday at the shop? Or does anybody really know? It did or it didn't?
That worked yesterday.
Yeah?
I think the first thing is what Paul's doing is to put that one in, which is the one that was run at Snetterton.
Yeah.
Okay. See if that works. If that doesn't work, then we have to overlook the wiring. There's only 3 wires from that plug to there and back, so there's very little that can go wrong.
They decide to change the module. But Steve Taylor is convinced that the program is correct and starts the painstaking search for a fault in the car's wiring. Because the engine is set for race boost, they cannot use the module from the slow run at Snetterton. The only engine management module available is this one from the previous dynamometer test. But because there's no need for a kill switch on the dynamometer, no one knows whether this module is correctly wired or not.
No, it's all right. We just want to try it. We're not even going to bother. Hang on, there's one of these full of... Yeah, we're okay.
And he says there's an old patch of ice up against the pit wall on this side, but just go very slowly and carefully.
It still doesn't work, and team manager Tyler Alexander turns his attention to the switch itself.
And that one.
Changing the program, they've isolated the switch again. Very proper you can shut, yes, I don't want to do that unless you can reach that, but can you? Not very well. Not very well, but you can reach it, yes, okay.
The rain, forecast for midday, arrives half an hour early and brings with it Team Lotus, hoping to test their latest Renault engine. Taylor has decided to put the module back the way it was. The activity attracts Renault engineers from the Lotus team.
Okay, we'll just check to see if it runs and then we'll go.
Unaware of the increasingly desperate kill switch problem, the Renault engineers try to catch a glimpse of the new Ford engine.
It works mechanically. We checked that. We checked with a meter on here. That's the latest. Yeah. No, and it was on and off. No. Well, no, the switch. Anyways, right about it. Just put a link across the pipe, get the hole in through.
Yes. See, that's a problem.
Shortly after midday, the fault is finally traced to a wiring change in the car. As cold fingers fumble with the catches, everyone knows it's going to be a cold, wet afternoon. The heat and fumes at the Dino Ferrari circuit in Italy. It is the end of untimed practice at the San Marino Grand Prix. Now the teams prepare their cars for timed practice to qualify for a position on the starting grid. During the morning they have run in race trim, but to qualify the cars are changed in subtle ways. This is the wastegate. It's a spring-loaded valve which controls the boost from this, the turbocharger compressor. For qualifying, the boost must be increased, so wastegates with stronger springs will be fitted. It is the first race for the new car. The engine management computer is now half its original size and finally mounted in its correct position on top of the fuel tank.
As soon as we get power here, we can take a look at all of our sensors here and make sure that everything is working properly. Right.
For the race, the computer must run the engine as economically as possible, conserving every drop of its 195 litres of fuel. To qualify, a turn of the screwdriver reprograms the engine into a fire-breathing gas guzzler.
It's going to be interesting. I'm not sure whether it's altogether quicker or not. Actually, the atmosphere should be a bit quicker.
I think you're going to be all right in the race.
Oh, well, it's only on full tank, so it's nice.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
No problems.
As timed practice starts, favourites for pole position are the Honda-powered Williams. World champion Prost in the Porsche-powered McLaren. Both the Williams cars look for a clear run, followed by the Renault-powered Ligier. With a flying lap of 1 minute 25.8 seconds, Nelson Piquet's Honda Williams lays claim to pole position. But his main rival, Ayrton Senna, in the Renault-powered Lotus, goes ahead by less than half a second, almost immediately. It took Piquet just 9 laps, and his first set of sticky qualifying tyres are finished. Each team is allowed 2 sets of qualifying tyres, and to prevent cheating, an official marks them with a code. Qualifiers are made from a special compound that goes sticky when it gets hot.
If we can get them nice and warm, we can sort of go out and get into it on the first lap, or certainly at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, and then if you get it into the first lap, what you get a second one out of? No, that's it.
That's it, because it's quite a long lap there and they're gone. So you really, I mean, in terms of qualifying laps, you get 2 qualifying laps this afternoon, and that's it. Put it away. Which is a bit crazy, really.
The car is ready for its debut. Formula One includes a set of dimensions to which every car must conform. But before it can be measured, the flat spots must be rolled out of the tyres. Tombe will not drive the new car in this race. His is still being finished back at the Heathrow factory. While other teams grapple for a position on the grid, Japanese technicians in the Williams pit quietly prepare extra engines in case the others explode. These Honda V6s are said to produce up to 1,200 horsepower for qualifying. But today, all eyes are on this new act as it enters the Formula One arena for the first time. The diminutive V6 can now run in anger, its onboard computer holding left and right-hand banks of cylinders in fiery equilibrium. Jones, feeling grip in his tyres, tries for a quick lap. Qualifying tyres on the rear of the car tend to warm up quicker than the front, so the team have developed a system for preheating the front tyres before leaving the pits. But technologists from Goodyear are concerned about the effect this might have on the compound.
I want to try and get back out if I can and have another go. The reason I went for it on the first lap is because the front tyres actually felt quite good. They were hanging in there. So it was pointless doing another lap. That's why I went for it.
Is he happy with the pickup now? Is he happy with it? Is he never happy with it?
Probably never. I'll ask him this.
Another set of tyres are being gently cooked.
How are those tyres doing? They should be another couple of minutes.
Could do another 4 minutes.
As the qualifying hour ticks away, a problem is discovered. The left-hand rear brake caliper is rubbing on the wheel rim.
Very tight, even then it hasn't worn it.
Still wrapped in electric blankets, the front tyres are readied for another quick lap. Despite pleas from Jones for an extra powerful qualifying engine, Cosworth have refused to build one, believing instead that a track record of reliability will pay off in the long run. Jones cannot better his first attempt, and as other teams improve their performance, slips to 21 on the grid. The smoke pouring from these cars during qualifying is evidence of the massive amount of fuel being burned in the search for extra speed. With special tyres, excessive boost, even special engines, qualifying has become a farce, with little relevance to the race itself, where economy and tyre durability are needed to win. Despite being egged on by their hometown tifosi, even Ferrari seem wearied by the irrelevance of it all. The new team begin to get into the swing of it. A little more fuel is added as Mike Kranifus gives Jones his latest lap time of 1 minute 30.8 seconds.
30.8.
Despite his lack of horsepower, Jones, determined to have another go, decides to cobble together a set of tyres from his used qualifiers in the hope of knocking a few tenths of a second off his lap time.
What are they doing?
Just trying to make a decent set of tyres out of the two that I've used.
Okay, no. Yeah, just, I mean, 2/10 and you're 8th or 9th.
Yeah, no.
It's very close to it.
At the other end of the pit lane, Nelson Piquet has used up his qualifiers and watches his Williams teammate Nigel Mansell try to push Lotus off pole position. Jones decides to put race tyres on the rear of the car and qualifiers on the front. But Cosworth's Paul Ray spots a problem. The exhaust has cracked just ahead of the turbocharger. Today's game is over. Jones will drive 29 competitive laps in tomorrow's race before retiring with a damaged radiator. But for today, unnoticed by the assembled press, Jim Coates secretly files the first day's work into the computer.
Mysterious fuel systems problem or something which can give him the right performance. 15th number 18, Thierry Boutsen with the Barclay USF&G Arrows BMW. 16th number 24, Alessandro Nannini with the Minardi Motori Moderni. 17th number 15, Alan Jones, making first public appearance for the new Haas Lola Ford THL2 with the new 6-cylinder Ford Turbo, with a full team from the electronic engineering division of Ford here with it, as well as the Cosworth people, running conservative boost in qualifying, but running very reliably, 2 cars alternating all day.